just looking back to the last game, apart from the 3 points, what was it that pleased you the most about the win against Sheffield Wednesday?
I think the attitude's been good the last couple of games, and the young lads getting opportunities, even though it's only a few minutes for one or two of them. I think it's just it's give everybody a lift at the training ground. It's difficult when there's nothing really to play for, but I thought there was. I thought our pride was at stake, that we owed it to the clubs fighting relegation to put the same amount of effort in. So I was pleased with that kind of performance.
All the talk afterwards was obviously about Josh Colburn and his goal and making his debut. And I bet he's probably been walking on air this week, has he? Have you had to bring him down to earth a little bit?
That's right. He was nearly playing on. We've got a game on Monday, and I was nearly putting him in on that. But at the moment, we're going to just keep him with us. But yeah, I mean, I don't think it just gives Josh a lift. It gives everybody in the academy a lift. But as I've said earlier, you just got to be a little bit cautious with young lads. It's a very difficult situation, especially the Championship.
You said how obviously difficult it is not having something to play for, especially for you as a manager, always used to having something to fight for around this time of the season. But I suppose, is that one of the things you can enjoy, is moments like that with Josh and with the other youngsters you've given debuts to, for when they then go out and they put those performances in and they have those moments. So those are the bits you can enjoy.
Yeah, I think as a manager, you're always wanting moments like that, really, where you give a lad an opportunity. It's not just come about that. It's been for sort of 6 or 7 weeks, hard weeks for Josh, coming up against physically strong lads that you get in the top flight, and learning little bits. That's all. And he's still got a long way to go. But it's great to see, the actual goal, the movement that he did, the movement that he had, which we've been pushing him in training. And when you see a player taking it in like that, you're really pleased. And I think from a manager's point of view, I remember Victor Moses at Palace making his debut at 18, and Scannell and other players. At Sheffield United, I had Jagielka, Montgomery, Tong, and so it's lovely when and I still keep in touch with these lads. So it's nice when you see something like this happen, and I would imagine his family were very proud. But it's difficult when they're not being able to be there to see moments like that.
I was about to say, you've seen a lot of debuts in your time as a football manager, and I mean, are those the bits that I imagine there's a lot about football management that can get old quite quickly, things that you have to deal with. But is that one thing that just no matter how many times you're a part of it or you give them that opportunity to see somebody of that age and of that quality to then go and produce is something that just never gets old?
It doesn't, no, and I don't think it ever will. Like I say, I still keep in touch with these lads from donkeys years ago. And it's those moments. I can see certain things in all the players I've mentioned. I can see certain things that throughout the career that like Jagielka going in goals against Arsenal and things like that. It was just an amazing. These young lads, they give that enthusiasm and that good vibes around the place, and the senior pros have really taken to these lads. We've had them training with us now for a few weeks, and you can see the improvement because it's so much quicker and more physical. That you have to learn quick in this game, and you can see that with the way they train.
And have any of those players, talking about Josh and the others who have come in and made their debut, have any of those in those moments, whether it be in games or in training, have they done enough to maybe put themselves in the picture next season, or is that still one step ahead?
I think pre-season will determine that. We're at the moment. We've only got about 12 players, something like that. So we've got to bring players in, and although I would like to think we're going to bring players in early, and have them back when we start training July the 1st, the chances are that we'll end up bloody August the 31st scrambling around trying to get one in. So it's the young lads will have opportunities in pre-season, and like I say, sometimes they go away as boys and come back as men in pre-season, and it's a long, I think they've deserved it, but it's a good break this time, So, I'm optimistic that these lads will come and be a little bit stronger and show us what they can do. There's a couple of lads that's not had an opportunity yet that I think have done really, really well. So, it'll be interesting over the next couple of games if I can give those, a little bit of time.
What is it? I was going to ask, how important is it to get players in early? But you've obviously just said there, you want to do that. What is it that makes you feel that might not necessarily be the case as much as you want it to be?
Well, we've got to get a move on in our conversations with agents and players and get an agreement. I mean, as long as a player gives me his word that he's going to come with us, that's sufficient for me. Because if like I've said in the past, if they go somewhere else having given the word, you don't want them anyhow because they'll let you down. So I want to try and get 3 or 4 players giving me the word that they come in and looking forward to next season before I go away, really, before I shoot off.
Is Famara Jedju perhaps maybe one of those? Talk of him this week that something potentially could be close there. Anything you can tell us on that?
No, only what I read in the papers.
You talk about incomings. What about potentially, and you've spoken about, trying to keep hold of certain players. Have you had many sniffing around for your players? Again, talk this week that you've got clubs looking at Jed Spence.
Yeah, I think there's always clubs looking, I mean, in a way, while it's been disappointing for me to lose my top players, a lot of my top players, in a way, it's been a blessing because they've not been able to be watched over the last 6, 7, 8 weeks, So these lads that have not been able to be watched, hopefully scouts have picked up somebody else, and they'll concentrate on other players.
And just for fans listening, I suppose they'll be, I guess, heartened and pleased to hear that there is clearly work already going on behind the scenes to either get those players in or just preparations ahead of next season, which you clearly hope will be a fruitful one.
Yeah, I think it's in a probably a good position at the moment, the club, where the pandemic means that money is a shortage. It's not a good saying it isn't. The money that Steve pumps in every month is quite formidable, really. So it is an awkward. So we've got to try and get value for money. We won't be signing any £10 million players and all this, that, and the other. We've got to be realistic at what we're getting. We've got to try and get players that will help us get more points on board, and that's what it's not an easy situation but it's. I think in a way sometimes I enjoy that more than spending money and then regretting it. I think it's hard work to get players in like that, but it's still a very popular club. I think players still want to come and play for the club, and sometimes they want to play for me. So it's that type of player we need, and I think we're at not the crossroads, but since I've been at the club, there's been a lot of players sort of are they staying, are they going? Whereas now it's to sort of clear the decks, and we've got a fresh start really.
You feel you've already got an idea then about the squad that you've got at the minute, or the players that you've got at the minute? Do you feel you've already got an idea as to who will be there next season and who might move on?
Yeah, I think every manager by this stage, with 2 games to go, has got a good idea on what situation. It's not always possible. We won't be selling our players cheap. So unless the offer's realistic, they'll stay put. But that's the same at every club. And I think you're always looking to what season, especially if you're not going to go up, then you concentrate. Can we get players to get us higher up the championship really than what we're going to finish on, and they're the type that I'm looking for.
Away from transfers for a second, and one of the big stories this week is that players, teams, and even UEFA are taking part in this social media boycott to try and highlight the issue of online abuse. Boro, of course, have first-hand experience of that this season with the comments towards Yannick Bolasie just a few months ago. For you as a manager, obviously having to deal with players and social media, or players on social media, I mean, how important or how big a step do you think this is in terms of showing a united front that this just won't be? Yeah,
I think it's a good step. I don't think it's severe enough, if I'm honest. I would like to have seen social media banned for a month. not 2 days. I think that, you know, the people that we're trying to get rid of, the scum that, you know, write these sort of messages, for me, they'll just have a weekend off. You know, so I would have preferred it a month. In fact, I would prefer it a lifetime ban. Me, I can't stand it, social media. But I know it's something that's really popular and that the younger generation are into. But I think if you had a ban for a month, I think that would hurt the big timers, the people that run these situations. And in the year 2021, if you can't tell me that you could find out who's put this tweet on, there's got to be some sort of legislation for coming on, joining a sort of the platform. So I'm sure they can do a lot more, but I think it would take something like banning for a month to actually hit home to these people.
And how does it affect players? You know, you've been a manager and seen sort of the introduction of social media and players getting on there, and I suppose how that can then affect them, whether it be on the pitch or on the training ground. Have you had much experience of that, players coming, whether it's players coming to you or just hearing them talk about things that's been said to them online?
Yeah, I mean, I think you know, the tittle tattle that get around the clubs. You are aware of that. I just think that at this moment in time, like you say, for example, next season I won't have any telephones in the dressing room away from home. You know, or they'll leave them on the bus when we get to grounds. Whereas, you know, I can walk in the dressing room at 2:15 and they'll be flicking through things. You know, goodness knows what it is. So it gets in the way of everything. Preparation is important. There won't be any of that next year. There won't be any messing about with phones in the dressing room, training-wise as well. You know, it's concentration next year. So I think there's a time and a place. It's just taken over the whole world, hasn't it? Social media. If we let it go, if we don't curb it, then heaven knows what's going to happen in the next generation.
To the football, 2 games of the season left. Luton next, unbeaten in 4, and they seem to be, I suppose, similar to yourselves in a way, that trying to finish the season as strong as it possibly can.
Yeah, they're a type of team that I would love. You know, it wouldn't bother me managing them. They're so genuine. Everyone gives everything, 100% every week. They have bad games, they have good games, but they put a shift in. And as a manager, that's, you know, I like teams like that. Me, I could manage them any day of the week. Me, it's the opposite to that I don't like. So I've got a lot of time for them. And you know, Nathan's, you know, he's had a look at what it's like away from it, and sometimes the grass is not always greener. I think he was glad to run back in there, a little bit like Eddie Howe at Burnley, and you know, glad to get back to Bournemouth. I think it does you a bit of good as a young manager to go and have a look what happens, and then you know what you're good at. And Nathan I think he loves the players and clubs, and I'm glad he's back settled. It'll be a difficult game tomorrow for us.
I was going to ask about Nathan because obviously, I mean, he started his career at Cardiff, and a club you know obviously very well. Back at Luton for a second time. Is he a person you've come across a lot in the game at all, or is a distant relationship?
No, not really. Only when we've managed them. You know, I listen to all the managers and the talks and things when they're on TV. But as I've said, I'm sure, you know, when you manage, when you enjoy management, you're so much better as a manager. And, you know, sometimes when you go to the bigger clubs, they've got bigger players with bigger egos and bigger social media platforms. And it's very difficult, not just for young managers, it's difficult for all managers. And, you know, you look at Jose, for me, that was player power, you know. I've had chairmen that the players have spoke to. One of my London clubs, 2 or 3 players always spoke to the chairman. I'm sure he listened. And when you drop them and leave them out, they're not going to say anything good about the manager, are they? So, you know, but chairman listen to things like that. And then the players will say they've lost a dressing room, etc., etc. And you get relieved of your duties. So it's a difficult job. And the higher you go, the more egos there are to manage. So I think that's why I've enjoyed the Championship really, more than other leagues, because I think you just get that type of player, or I try to get that type of player in my teams that I know what I'm getting.
Just finally from me, team news. What shapes the squad in ahead of the trip down there?
We're very similar to last week. I don't think there was any. Jed Spence had a bit of a knock in training, but I think his scan. I'm not sure whether he had a scan. He was, but I think he'll be back into training this morning. I think. So other than that, I think everybody's available, and we go down. I'm glad we finished on that, Rob, because I thought we were doing a half-hour show for you. Did you? I thought we were doing a tease bloody programme then.
Just following up on the sort of stuff you were saying there to Rob about social media, it does seem sort of almost the wrong way around. The clubs and the players are taking themselves off it, but people are still going to be able to post abuse. And when you guys log back on, you'll see it. It just seems daft that you've been chased off almost.
Well, I just think it's just another step, like it was for when we started kneeling before games. I think when that started, it was important, and now I think that this is just a sort of a warning across the bow, really, Chris. I think what we're saying is, you've got to do something about this, or there'll be more boycotts. I think, like I said, I think they should be banned for a month, mate, and just see how they deal. Then I think they'll soon deal. Then if the top players as well and the personalities of this world don't go on social media for a month, you'd soon get these companies that look after the pounds reacting to that, I think.
It's an interesting one as well, because it's almost sort of quite hard to believe in a way that people can be so angry. You've got to think a lot of the people who post these comments probably wouldn't say boo to a goose if they saw you in the street.
No, they wouldn't. I mean, that's the kind of person that says these. But it's amazing. I mean, even now when I look on Middlesbrough's websites and that, there's some quite nasty comments about me at times and things like that. Are you with me? And I'm thinking, well, I'm doing quite well at the minute. Imagine if they weren't doing so well. The social media, you do get these people, like you say, if they were confronted to you face to face, they wouldn't be anywhere near. They wouldn't say a boo to a goose. So it's just, for that moment, they feel very powerful. For that moment, they feel a celebrity. And that's the sort of platform that social media has given to these people. But the abusive ones, that's just the scum of the earth. That's why, for me, there's got to be a way from these companies to know who's on where, and then we can do something about it, rather than just let anybody come on anonymous and say what they want. And I think but if they don't do something about that, it's only going to get worse. You can't tell me it's improved in the last few weeks, because I don't think it has. I think something's got to come from the governing bodies to stop this from sort of engulfing the game, really.
I know you're not on social media, but you've got family members, you've got kids who perhaps do use social media. I mean, do you ever talk to them about it?
Yeah, I think so. I think there has been occasion where some of the families had abuse, but we've tried to eliminate that now, really, by, I don't want them going on with the proper names and things. Are you with me? So it's one of those things. I think it's how you bring your kids up, really. I wouldn't expect any of my kids to even think about anything like that, because that's how they've been brought up. And I think if you've got that respect in the families, I still open doors for people, for ladies in particular, and I'm told it's wrong now, that you shouldn't do that. But that's how I am, and that's how I will be. I think good manners don't cost anything, me. And I think it's got to come from schooling and growing up in families and getting the respect back. And it's not money. I don't think it's money. My mum and dad had nothing. We didn't have anything at all. My dad worked 16-hour shifts, British Steel. My mum had multiple sclerosis. We had 3 kids in a 2-bedroomed house. But it doesn't mean you can't have respect. It doesn't mean you can't have good manners. And I think that's where we lose it out a little bit. And it's our own fault, because we want our kids to have everything. We want our kids to have computers. We want them to have Apple phones. We want them to have this, that and t'other. And, you get kids at 8 or 9 years of age on the bloody machines till 9 o'clock at night now. And, and it's got to come from the parents, really.
Just a word on the match this weekend. Is it a difficult one for you to sort of strike the balance? Because it must be quite hard to keep the guys motivated, knowing there's only a few games left and that, there's not an awful lot to play for.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's just pride, really. I mean, I think the team we'd like to finish as high as we can, and then we'd like to beat that position next season. Are you with me? So that's what it is at the moment, and we don't know whether there'll be anything at stake for Wycombe when they come. But you know what you're going to get with Wycombe. You're going to get a hard game. That's week in, week out with Gareth. So the two games are interesting games, and we've got probably the form team at the moment playing on Saturday at Luton. That will be extremely a difficult game for us, and we have missed our best players. When you look at the points ratio and what have you, when we've had these players in the team, when they're not in the team, it's a massive difference, and that's why we have to get better quality players into the squad for when we have problems like we've had. And I think that's the biggest difference. I don't think we've had enough choice to come in when we've had major players out for length of time.
Just a word on Luton. I mean, it's that old cliche, it'll not be an easy game, but it really won't be an easy game.
No, not like I say, you know what you're going to get. You know you've got to cope physically with them, and it's not illegal physically. They're just keen. They're just good lads. Like I say, it's the type of club I could manage tomorrow. They're all genuine 100%ers, and as a manager, that's all you can ask, and that's why my lads have got to be ready, or we'll get pummeled. If we don't want to compete, if we're on the beach already. But I don't think we are. I think you could see that at Rotherham. Even when we went a goal down before the sending off, I thought we were on top of our game. And I thought Sheffield Wednesday, yes, there were periods, but I thought we still put a performance on to get the points.
Brilliant, Neil. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Chris.
Good luck. Enjoy.
Thank you.
Mark Chilman, BBC.
BBC, where are you? Is he up? Yep.
Hi, Neil.
Hi, Paul.
How are you?
All right, Mark.
Just quick one on League One clubs. We've got obviously Luton and Wycombe, your last two games of the season. Luton, 2 seasons ago got promoted, have now established themselves. Wycombe found it a bit of a struggle this season. How much of a difference do you think it is? Is it for a League One club to come up to the Championship and establish themselves?
Well, I think that the teams you mentioned is very difficult. I think you look in our area, look at Sunderland. When you look at the size of the club, your Wycombes of this world is a miracle. No matter what you say, for them to be in the Championship, when I saw that they got promoted that game, I was straight on to Gareth. It was an absolute remarkable. Nobody realises what an achievement that is for a club like Wycombe. And if they finish bottom, it's an achievement to have been in the Championship. Whereas a lot of the clubs, there are a lot of big clubs that want to get in the Championship, and it's not an easy task. It doesn't, just because you've got a big club and big followers and that. I don't think having no crowds has helped either. But Luton have adapted because I think they've gone back to what they were good at. I think Nathan went away and they tried to change certain things, but then they come back to what they're good at. And that's the problem. I think sometimes fans not being in the stadium will probably change owners and directors about the style of play that gets talked about, which had been, something that I've been accused of over the years. But the style of play is getting the best out of the group you've got. And that's what Luton do. They get the best out of what they've got, and good luck to them. They've showed the character last week, for example, 2-0 down at Bristol City. I'm on my bike, sitting on a bench, and we were 2-0, and I'm thinking that's a great result for us, 2-0 Bristol. And then I come in from my bike an hour later, and it's 3-2 to Luton, and that's the type that they've got. They are, they're resolute. They never say die. And they've got some good players, so we'll have to be on our toes, really.
And it's the time of the season where a lot of clubs perhaps blood some of their better academy products. In terms of the social media thing we were talking about, the academy lads, are they getting different advice or enhanced advice on how to deal with social media as they come through the academy? It's become perhaps a more important part of their training, what goes on off the training pitch.
Yeah, I think they all, Craig Liddell and the group, I know Graham Lee as well, I think they speak to the lads in quite a lot about the responsibilities, etc. and nothing will change on that. I still think it comes from the family. I still think that that lads learn from. I think parents have an important part as we get into this social media era. But good example. Like you say, good tutors are important at this moment for young lads because they are influential.
Just a final one from me. Is this going to be one of the most difficult transfer windows that you've had to take on? You've talked about perhaps a bigger overhaul than you'd anticipated a couple of months ago, but you might know who you want to keep. But just as you're bringing new players in, there's another club, perhaps expressing an interest. It's going to be quite hard to put the pieces together.
Oh, absolutely, because the type of players I'm looking at, there's 4 or 5 other clubs after him. So depending on whether you want to come this far north, when you look at a map, a lot of players want to stay around London area or different areas where where they've got family and things. There's that many things you've got to take into consideration. But that's why, I want us to try and move quickly to get 2 or 3 in. So that we haven't got to rush everything else. We can't be rushing to get everybody in. We've got to try and do some business in that first few weeks.